Good evening, everyone. To the latecomers, too. I won't run the show alone, actually. Shannon is with me here. This is Shannon. She didn't want to go on stage with me, but she will be there afterwards. Tonight, we have a special session, actually. The session is featuring two very different people you will see. First of all, please excuse my accent. I come from the eastern part of California called France. This is very east, by the way. And actually, we have two different roles here. I represent what we call a challenger company. By the way, raise your hand if you work in a challenger company. I mean, you're not number two in your industry. Number one in your industry, sorry. Who is not number one in his industry or her industry? Okay, and who is number one? Okay, that will be Shannon's part, definitely. Right. We'll start with two little, let's say, keynotes, something like between 15 and 20 minutes. And then we are very open to questions. And by the way, if you have any reason to interrupt me, do that. I have no problem with this. Definitely one thing before we start, because I will forget it afterwards. When you want to ask a question, you just stand up and you come close to this mic, because you have to speak into the mic if you want to be recorded. If it's not the case, nobody will understand what you say, so that would be a pity. Right. My part is actually to talk from the point of view of a challenger. And actually, I changed a little bit the wording, because challenger is one thing, but an outsider. And as you can see in the title of my presentation, let's talk about being an influential outsider. It's very easy to be just number two or number three or number four or number what, I don't know. But at the end of the day, the question is, do you have influence on your industry, even if you're not a leader? And in the case of talent acquisition, this is a very crucial question, actually. Especially when you compete in an industry where we are all looking for the same kind of talents, namely, graduates, top graduates from the best schools in the world. And this is rather a red ocean. You know this notion of red ocean compared to blue ocean. So we are not talking blue ocean at all here. The problem is that in my industry, and I'm going to talk to you about it, this is really a differentiator, more than clients. So we are what we call a resource-based industry. So my job is this. What is important is not chief, and it is not officer. We couldn't care less about title. I like the sentence, titles are free of charge. So you can pick up whatever the title you want. The question is what you do, actually. And so my job is about people and communication. And I wanted to show it to you because this is something new. I used to be the chief HR officer of this company called Mazars, and I'm going to tell you a bit more about Mazars afterwards. But from the beginning of the year, we have decided to merge HR and communication. So why? Because actually I listened to what Jeff Winner said 2 years ago in London. We had a kind of private session with Jeff. And Jeff said, in the future, employer branding and global branding are going to increasingly converge. And actually, this is exactly what we experience today. So that's why we moved to this kind of organization, which I guess is the future. So what is Mazars? Why am I talking about a challenger? You want to know what a challenger is. It's when you live in an oligopoly. Do I have people from KPMG here? Ernst & Young. Thank you. PricewaterhouseCoopers. We don't have Price. Okay, Deloitte? Yes. Okay, so we have 3 in 4 of the big 4s. In my case, I am even not on the radar. I mean, Mazars is 10 times smaller than the smallest big 4. This is a pure definition of challenger, in a way. And we are operating in 85 countries. We've been around for 70 years, 7-0. And by the way, in 70 years, we only had 3 leaders, which is a score just like Microsoft, except that we are a bit older. 85 countries where we are present. 15,000 people. Guess what? We're still a little kind of startup, if you want, because it's not big, but it's not small. In the consulting, audit, advisory business, 15,000 starts to be something significant. But at the same time, nothing compares to the Big Four, as you can imagine. So the problem is this. What can we do to attract the same people as you're attracting? Can we get even sometimes the best, the cream of the cream, la crème de la crème, as we say in French? Not so easy, because they have a brand we don't have. So my point tonight will be, well, I say tonight because for me it's really tonight in France, but actually it's just the middle of the afternoon here. My point will be, can you do something when you're a challenger to kind of compete with the big fishes in your industry? And my answer is yes, and the second answer is yes, and thanks to LinkedIn. And I will show you how. I will keep it short, and so I just will give you the headline, and I hope the question and answer session will help maybe be more precise on certain points. My one and simple mission is this. It is not only to design and drive the HR strategy of my company. It is to make sure that if nothing happens strategically in this industry, I have to make a difference in HR. So HR is a differentiator in a global world where nothing is really happening strategically. The last very big thing that happened strategically in our sector was in 2002 when Arthur Andersen disappeared in less than 3 months. And these people, they were the top of the top. They were really what could be said to be a flagship in our industry. And they were gone like this. So nothing is really happening, and we need to have HR initiatives so that we can be a little bit more visible. And this is why my job is not just about HR, it's about communication, it's about also positioning Mazars on the radar. You know these two guys. Actually, sorry for the bad drawings, but the one at the bottom is Michael, who graduated from a business school here. I did. Right, in any business school you've been told about Michael Porter. Does it ring a bell, the name, Michael Porter, you know? Everything is about a client, a segment. You couldn't care less about the rest. The rest is just a side aspect of business, like culture, people, that kind of things. Strategic competitive advantage. Very nice. One day, two guys, Gary Hamel and C.K. Prahalad, late C.K. Prahalad, said, forget about this. There are some industries where the resources are more important than anything because they come first. This is what we call a resource-based approach. And if you don't have the resource, even if you have the clients, you're gone. And this is the case in what we call the professional service industry. Which means that for us, recruiting is a number one strategic act. And you see, I tend to listen to Gary Hamel more than Michael Porter to determine what is important for Mazars. Acquiring the right resource is the number one priority for our industry and for our business. So that's what I'm working for every day. This is the average age in my company, 28. I don't know if you believe in this generation thing. You know, 10 years ago, I was writing articles against it. I say, well, you know, we've all been young. I mean, they are just young. And it won't last long, you know. I was a good example of this. You know what? At that time, I had an opinion. Now I have an analysis. Because living with these young people, I can tell you, it's not a question of your opinion and if you like it or not. You'd better move and listen to them and change, adapt, adjust your organization to these young people. The curious thing is that I'm showing a very young age, and you only have old people in the background. Maybe you know one of these old people, sorry. The one who is carefully listening to the other one. The tall one is a German guy, as you can see in the color of the shirt. But the other one, listening carefully to this, is one of the most famous gurus in the world, still living, of management gurus. You know his name? Anybody to recognize that person? Charles Handy. Have you heard about Charles Handy? You know, he's the father of some concepts like employability, activity portfolio, the Shamrock organization, that kind of things. Very simple man, by the way, you know. Charles Handy is used to saying that once he was gardening, and someone came and said, "Sorry, sir, I met Mrs. Handy at an exhibition, and she said that her husband is at home. Do you know if he's at home?" And he stood up and he said proudly, "He is I. I am Charles Handy." And the guy in front of him said, "Are you sure?" And you know, this guy is a modest, humble person. But why am I showing this guy to you? Because he's the best secret agent of LinkedIn. And you didn't even notice. It was in Vienna. That picture was taken in Vienna in a private session with him. And a young guy coming from Ghana, Africa, at one point in the session, came back to Charles Handy because Charles Handy was explaining what employability is. And the young guy said, "You know, Mr. Handy, employability to me means having a job." And Charles Handy said, "You'd better forget about that word, and you should ban it from your language and the English language as well. Because yesterday, a job was when I recruit you, and I will tell you what you have to do. I dictate you what you have to do of your time. And work tomorrow," he said, "will be completely different. It will be, I recruit you for what you have chosen to do." And this is exactly what LinkedIn is offering, by the way. From a CV to a profile, from so many people. You remember 10 years ago, if you would have learned that someone in your organization had his or her CV with a headhunter, what would you have said? Traitors. You know, this is treason. How many people in your organization today have their profiles on LinkedIn? Do you have 95% of traitors in your organizations? No. And this is a big shift, you know. Because this is exactly why we as challengers were able to change the name of the game. Can you imagine 10 years ago the kind of efforts we had to make to simply exist on the job market without a name, without being known? At the time, we were not talking about Big 4, but Big 5. And I can tell you, Mazars had a tremendous hell of difficulties to exist. But thanks to LinkedIn, we could change that. And we started to develop very smart strategies to exist in an industry where there was absolutely no space for us, especially acquiring the best talents. I joined the company 4 years ago, actually, coming from the big banking industry. Some of my friends said, I went in 2005 in the banking sector, to say, this is really a boring thing. Nothing is never happening in that kind of industry, you know. Joining in 2005 was a good move. A crisis later, I joined Mazars. And I had to change completely the HR strategy of that company. And that's what we did. Actually, when I started, this kind of rankings you had already. And look at this ranking. EY, number 2, these are the most preferred employers, the most attractive employers for business schools and engineering schools as well, you see? So EY, PwC, Deloitte, KPMG, and look, if I enlarge it to the global PSF, professional service firms, then you also have McKinsey, you know, and BCG. Do you see any other industry featuring 6 of its potential representatives in such a ranking? No. You see, so this is one of the most attractive industries in the world. And every time I show that ranking to one of my partners, he says, this bunch of bastards, they're still ahead of us. I say, are you crazy or what? Thank you to them. Bravo. Wonderful. And hopefully they will do that again. You know why? Because the day they are not appearing in that ranking, my own attractivity and attractiveness is decreasing big time. So there is 4 lessons I would like you, before we go to Shannon's presentation and then question and answers, that I would like you to understand when we start talking about being a challenger and using talent acquisition as a lever to change your own positioning and the global image of your company. First thing, rule number 1. I try to use this kind of tweets, so that you can easily tweet it. Talent acquisition competition must never destroy industry attractiveness. So thank you, bravo, and go on, Big Four. Because the day you don't do your job, I'm out. So I'm a big fan of the Big Four, and especially when they rank up in this kind of ranking. So, excellent. And I write this because I have seen so many times people competing against each other and destroying the global value of their attractiveness as an industry. The number 1 thing is to protect the attractiveness of your industry. So never compete by destroying this value. Rule number 2 is being a disruptive leader, an innovative leader, is very high maintenance. Can you imagine the amount of money you need, the amount of talent to reinvent yourself and accept the idea to give up what makes you the standards, the convention of the business because you're the leader for this, to reinvent yourself permanently? I mean, not everybody is Steve Jobs in a way, you see? But there is worse than this. Being a conventional challenger is absolutely idiot. It is stupid. Big time. So if you are a challenger, and look at the number of challengers that just want to stick to convention, that just want to look alike what the leaders are doing. Do you have any other definition of insanity? No. If you are a challenger, be ready to challenge, be ready to challenge also the convention. That's the definition of disruption, by the way, you know it. So there is no option but being disruptive. And being disruptive means this, in my business, for instance. So the Big Four people, forget about this, you haven't seen anything, okay? But look at this. Are you ready to be a bit more controversial? We are in a business, and everybody here could say that on my behalf, which is a regulated business. Audit is really not a funny and glamorous business. It is a non-glamorous business performed by glamorous people. That's the way you have to think of it. If you think the contrary, you're in a mistake. So look at 2 examples of communication policies and strategies that we had. The first one here is what? You know, when you start describing an accountant, what do you say? Little gray man. Yeah? I can see it rings a bell. So yeah, same for me. I have this image every time I go to bed, and I say, wow, what am I doing here? I come from the hospitality, luxury industry, and this is a glamorous business, by the way. And look at this kind of advertising and communication campaign. Mazarians, not little, not gray, not old man. We didn't do that last year, If you go to Price, Deloitte, we have all experienced the same, which was a smash in our face with this, because we are very bad at gender diversity, not to speak about diversity in general. We did it 5 years ago. That was not really, I can tell you, the convention in the business, where the convention is to say, you should just go for competence. And guess what? I don't know why only 17% of women would be competent to lead that kind of companies. Doesn't make sense. So we were not really conventional. But putting that kind of things and advertising your own company like this, I can tell you, that's not so easy. Even worse, rules don't rule. In a business that is about rules. Wow. Can you imagine? And still today, when I show this, if my CEO is looking at this, but it's too late for him, he's sleeping at the moment, but if you say, you shouldn't show that, I'm not sure that was a good idea. We did it. We did it. But of course, conventional people sometimes also would not like it. What I mean by this is, you have to embark people. Be controversial. If you're a challenger, you have no option except being controversial. Rule number 3, when it's over, it's not over. You know the famous story of the guy, the chief HR officer who dies in a car accident, goes to the sky, and then he's meeting St. Peter's. St. Peter say, hell or heaven? He say, well, heaven. Ah, you seem pretty sure about yourself, but do you know the difference? He said, no, of course, but I've been told that heaven was better. Fine, I give you a free try, 1 day each. And the guy goes first to hell. Hell is not exactly what he expected, actually. It's a kind of, how would I say, open bar. It's a bit hot. It's like a LinkedIn kind of party. You see what I mean? So you will see tonight. It's hot. Music is loud. People are a bit drunk. Sometimes difficult to catch, but that's fine. He said, well, that was not the image I had from hell. And then he goes to heaven, where you have these people, you know, playing the harp on clouds, so it doesn't really, not really a funny part of heaven. And then he comes back, and St. Peter says, so, heaven or hell? He said, well, I would really have guessed differently, but I would definitely go for hell. Right, be my guest. And then he goes to hell. But then, hell is really looking like Dante's hell, you know, with people tortured, screaming. Everything is exactly as he was fearing it. And he turns back to St. Peter and says, St. Peter's, what is this? Yesterday it was an open bar, and today this is the real hell. He said, yes, but yesterday you were a candidate, now you're an employee. Guess what? Guess what? When you're a challenger, the first 3 years count much more than when you're a leader. And this is very important that you keep on re-recruiting your people, that you maintain a high level of employability, but you pay attention to the people you could get, because, again, we have less ability to be selective than our big competitors have. And this is clear that if we don't pay attention to this, you know the famous saying, reputation goes up the stairs, but down the lift. And that's one of the problems we can have. The last thing, by the way, just for us, we are very happy to be among the best recruiters, but we are much more happier to be among the happy trainees. Have you heard about happy trainees, you know? It's a ranking of the trainees that you have in your company that are ranking you and saying, I'm happy or not. I love my company, or I don't love my company. And we pay much more attention to this than even the rankings we have as recruiters. For instance, are you following that KPI? If someone is promoted in your company, do you go to the LinkedIn profile of the person to check whether the person is proud to change the profile or not? This is a very good KPI, you know? That's how you can see if people are proud or not to be with you, and if they are proud or not to be promoted. Look, this is, for instance, a campaign we're doing at the moment. Mazarians, they don't do anything like others. They keep on doing things differently. This looks like a cartoon. You know why? Because Gen Y, they like it. When we launched that campaign, immediately we had 4,000 people following us on YouTube. Not Mazarians, people from the outside. And it is now a season thing, you know, like a TV show. We are season 2 now, and we will have season 3 and so on. So everybody is asking for us. You have to be disruptive. But you know, if you listen to conventional people, they would say, this little blue character, you know, I don't like it very much. I mean, who cares? The question is, do the Gen Y like this kind of characters? Yes, they do. These kind of things. They do it themselves as well. So let's apply rule number 4, and I will be finishing with my speech with this. When you're a challenger, the young people that candidates meet during their recruitment process, they are your number 1 asset, and actually they are your brand. My big 4 friends here, they know it. They first sell Deloitte, KPMG, Price. They sell the brand itself. But the brand of a challenger cannot be the brand by definition. The brand of a challenger is made of the people that are brand ambassadors, much more than the brand itself. And that's why, by the way, we've stopped asking our C-level people to go to campuses and do these wonderful speeches, to try to attract young people. You know who we send? Young people. And the best impact you can have is having these young beginners, 3 years with Mazars, to sell their company. And everybody will believe in this. So that's why, and I will finish with this, this is the baseline we have at Mazars. What is important for us is that the Mazars experience remains an important thing in your career. And that's why in the LinkedIn profile, we are very much focusing on the fact that whether you're a candidate, or you're an employee, or you're an alumnus, you must be proud of belonging to that company and this community of people. Thank you. And this is Shannon.
Good. Good. Way to set the bar, Laurent. I don't think I'm going to be nearly as funny.
Join Mazars.
All right, so you heard from Laurent, small company challenger brand, right, that he has. I come from Intel Corporation, big company, big fish, right? We've been around for 45 years. I'll tell you a little bit about our company. Leading manufacturing of microprocessors. Everybody knows Intel is inside of your computer and your server. Been around 45 years, extremely strong company, $52 billion a year in sales, 25 years in a row of incremental annual growth. 170 sites, 67 countries, 107,000 employees. So majority of our employees are engineers, then manufacturing, and then support functions. So we are always looking for really key technical talent. Named one of the most valuable brands in the world. That list that Laurent had up, I think we were number 6 or 7 for engineering. And we're consistently ranked on Fortune's most admired companies. We've got a really simple mission. Utilize the power of Moore's Law to bring smart, connected devices to every person on Earth. Okay, that's billions of people. Moore's Law, for any of you guys who are not engineers, is basically, Gordon Moore was one of our founders. He said that every 18 months, the amount of transistors that can fit on a circuit board will double. And just to give you a sense of the magnitude of that, in one little tiny grain of rice, there's millions of transistors in that. So the technological complexity of what we do is just insurmountable, and it's fascinating. But we're actually moving more into devices that are not microprocessors and servers, not servers and PCs. So most people know us the data center, right? This is where we're number one. We're not like 85% of servers have Intel inside. PCs, huge market there. But where we're not as popular and where we're really competitive right now is in mobile, right? Tablets, phones, and then all the way to your right, wearables. Internet of Things. That's where we're headed. That's where the future is. And we are competing in those areas, and it's definitely challenging. We're taking that expertise of what we have in the PC and the server space and expanding that. Which means our global talent acquisition function has got to change. Our talent acquisition function, for those of you guys who are interested, it's marketing, it's recruiters, it's our support functions. Everybody is together. We hire interns all the way through executive search. We have about 250 people globally. But where it's getting challenging is now that we're moving into software in the foundry, I was mentioned a minute ago, the competition is fierce. We're competing with Microsoft and Google and Apple, Facebook. All these other companies are actually more attractive right now for people to go work for than Intel. We've been around 45 years. We have the most advanced technology, but we've had a little bit of a challenge with really establishing, keeping our brand alive, not being seen as old and stodgy, which is what happens when you get to be older. So we're really moving into a much more sales and marketing approach, which is what I'm going to talk to you guys about today. This is how I could talk about all kinds of things, how we've re-engineered our talent acquisition function, but in 20 minutes, you're going to hear about sales and marketing. So, employer brand. People have been talking about talent branding, employer branding for a really long time. But basically, the employer brand is I want every employee and every person out there to believe so strongly in Intel as an employer that they will bet their careers on it. I love this picture because that's a tattoo, and I always say if everybody in Intel would just tattoo a logo on their arm, I would be successful. So I'm going to give you, I got 4 areas. That one, let me just keep going because I got 4 things I'm going to share with you guys today. First of all, an employment value proposition. I understand there was a session this morning on an EVP. I didn't go, but you guys can tell me if I'm going to repeat any of the information that you heard there. But the fundamental foundation of a sales and marketing approach is to have a very strong employment value proposition. Now, when I first started doing this work, I tried to go out there and find out what the employment value proposition was for lots of companies. I couldn't find it. People did not want to share them. I'm sharing this with you guys, however many. You guys can use it. You can use it as an example. You can call me. I can tell you how we got there. But this is the fundamental part of a really strong brand, is really knowing exactly who you stand for, what differentiates you from everybody else out there. So collectively, these are the attributes. We did a bunch of research. We did focus groups. We talked to candidates. We talked to employees. We went through Glassdoor. We looked all over the place. What were people saying about Intel as an employer? And we put that all up on a board, and we said, all right, what are the 5 things that really differentiate us from everybody else out there? So enriching the lives of every person on earth, that aligns with the mission I shared with you earlier, starting with yours. These are the attributes. So 45 years of changing the world, right? Nobody else can say that. That is ours. We own that. Nobody else has been changing the world with technology. Challenging, rewarding careers. One of the things people will say about Intel is when you come to our company, you can have many different careers. You could work in manufacturing, then you can go work in finance. We encourage people to really move around, and that's unique. Very competitive. We've got some of the smartest people. I say that because I'm not to be bragging, but if you ask anybody why they work at Intel, they'll say, because everybody is so smart. We have 10,000 of our employees, huge percentage have masters, have PhDs. We have a highly educated workforce. And we're very, very competitive. The other 2, we've got some great benefits. Okay, they're not as good as Google's. Nobody has benefits as great as Google's. You all know that, but they're darn close. And then the last one, and this is really unique to Intel, is really making the world a better place. We have done so much philanthropically. We give so much back in STEM education, in research, in philanthropic. We give over 1 million years of volunteering into our communities around the world. So collectively, this is what makes Intel unique. So how do you make that come to life? I think this should start. So I share that with you because it's a marketing video. We partnered with our corporate marketing group. Our talent acquisition function sits within HR, but we partnered very closely with our sales and marketing group to fund it, because that's a huge amount of money to make a video like that, but to really make sure that the message is consistent with how we position our products out there. Let me go to the next one. So that was a video. Another great way, this is number 2, have a really strong employer brand campaign. This is our current recruitment campaign. So I mentioned earlier that we are in this kind of real state of transition. We're moving into really new markets, into new areas. We're in the midst of kind of a significant reinvention of our company. So we took our employment value proposition, we said, how are we going to attract people to come here and work here? So it's under this tagline, "Your What's Next?" And it really speaks to the candidate that says, you know what? Intel is going through a significant transformation. We're going to be very different in the next decade. If you want to make a difference, come here now. Your What's Next? So we just launched this campaign. It really focuses on, Intel is determined to win. You've got unlimited career opportunities here. Intel's a great place to work, and you can really make an impact. So again, draws off of those attributes of the employment value proposition into an employer brand campaign. You'll see this on all of our pages, our career pages, Facebook and LinkedIn. You'll see it in our events that we promote. You'll see it on college campuses. So this is it's easy, it's memorable, it's bold, it's different. So your What's Next? So it's a really simple message targeted to the candidate. Third idea, we did a lot of research into the candidate experience, and you guys know that that's critical. It's not only necessary to attract your employees, and candidates to the company, but once they get there, they've got to have a great experience, right? They need to have a good experience with the recruiters, and even more importantly, with the hiring manager. So we did a whole bunch of research. It really basically said that, we were at risk of losing our talent and losing those candidates because they were not having a great experience with our hiring managers. Our hiring managers are technically brilliant. They're passionate at what they do. They want to hire the best talent, but they don't know how to do it. Engineers typically aren't real outgoing and really friendly. So we have done a lot of work to put together training for them, and we kind of put it all together into this portal, and this portal is the home page. There's a training module that's actually very short, right? Managers don't have time to do a whole lot of stuff. So you say, hey, you need to take this class, they won't do it. But you say, hey, can you watch this 7-minute video, and we're going to help you be able to sell Intel to your candidates. So there's a training module, there's a really inspirational message from our leaders. There's how to draft a job description, right? We hire 10 to 13,000 people a year. In my little team of 16, we can't write all those job descriptions. The hiring managers have got to help. So we have a whole module on how you can create a job description that can actually attract the talent that you need. And then also how to prepare for an interview. How can you help the manager have a good interview? How can they make it personal, approachable? We have examples on there that says, if you're talking to an executive and you want to bring him in and you find out that his wife loves sushi, take them both out to the best sushi restaurant in Palo Alto, because that's memorable. So lots of tips from the candidates and for us to really help those hiring managers have a really good interaction and be able to sell the company. The last one is, I've got 2 more, events. So events, we didn't do events for a while. You guys all know that in your marketing teams, events are a heavy, heavy lift. They're a lot of work, they're expensive. But we went out this year and really started doing more events targeted at the critical hire list. So we went out, we did senior networking, like women events. We have a huge need for technical females at our company. So we did a lot of networking events. We did events with just our senior leaders and inviting a real small set of senior executives outside of the company from our key competitors. We invited them from Google and Qualcomm and Microsoft, and we invited them to meet with our senior leaders in a real informal setting. We've done virtual events, stealth recruiting, where we've kind of just set up these one-on-one interviews this has happened in India, with our India leaders, with potential candidates. So a lot of one-on-one interaction. So a lot of events this year. It really garnered a lot of leads. So we're evaluating this for next year to see if it's something we're going to do. But again, I think events, there's nothing more powerful than face-to-face interaction. If you can have a conversation with somebody, that's the most powerful way to introduce your company and educate people about your brand and what it's like to work at your company. The last one, and I think there was also a session on this earlier today that I missed, employee referral program. This is another sales and marketing. You can't just have an employee referral program, build it, and hope employees will come. You have to sell it. You have to market it. An employee referral program is by far the cheapest, most cost-effective way to bring in talent. I think our average is about 44% of our hires come from the employee referral program, which is great. I told my team, I said, that's too low. I want it to be 60%. Because the talent that comes in through an employee referral program have a higher likelihood to stay and retain. Because they come in, people who work at Intel, they're going to want their friends to come in, those people that they went to college with, people like them. So we bring in this talent, and then there's a higher likelihood that that talent is going to be successful. It's important to market it. You can't, like I said, you can't just hire, you can't just build it and they will come. This is a tagline for one of our campaigns, help wanted, brilliant friends. I told you everybody at Intel thinks they're really smart. Well, let's just tell them, bring in your brilliant friends. So that is attracting a lot of people right now. We do pay our employees if they bring in a candidate and we hire them. I think it's anywhere from $2,000 to $8,000. If they're hired. So it's a lucrative way as well. We're looking now how to market it better. I've been talking to Rob, our account manager with LinkedIn. I know they've got a wonderful product on LinkedIn on how to help with employee referrals. So we're going to be looking into that. So that's our employee referral program. And I think that's it. So I went really fast. You guys look me up on LinkedIn. Find my profile, connect with me. I've got a team of 16 people across the globe. If you want to know anything about Intel at all, I will talk to you. I can refer you to one of my people on my team on this talent and marketing space. Or if you want to know about our acquisition, how our recruiters do their work, I'll hook you up. So that's it.
So you don't come to Mazars.
Yeah,
okay.
Good. All right. So you guys have got 15 minutes for Q&A. Line up.
At least.
Come on.
And remember, you have to go and speak to us, but through the mic. Starts. Yeah.
There we go.
Hello, my name's Sarah. I work at a small software company in Portland, so familiar with Intel, of course.
Yeah.
When you're doing the messaging with like the pictures, and this is mostly for Shannon, but definitely, are you making sure like the messaging goes with some of the gender? You know, when they say like in job descriptions, if you say, you know, need to be 100% qualified or brilliant, that would not attract as many females. I mean, do you consider that?
That's so. Yes, we do. In fact, we've been going through our job descriptions because there are some inherent biases in how they're currently written that do turn off females. So we're actually doing a whole analysis right now and trying to rewrite them so it avoids that bias. So yeah, thank you for that. That's absolutely important.
I was hoping you could tell me a little bit more about your virtual events. More specifically, I guess, what types of virtual events did you find successful? And then also, did your marketing team use sort of a wide net approach, or did you use kind of a targeted sourced approach per team or per department?
Great question. Most of the virtual events, so I said our events were really targeted at critical hires. So we have people sign up. We use Taleo. I think most of you guys do. We have thousands of people who come in to Taleo every day. So we usually start with that. And if we're doing a virtual event, for example, in China, we will go through that list and we will invite those people that have already at least applied to Intel, so they have some awareness and some attraction to us as a company. So we market it through all of our social channels. We invite people. And then typically the actual event, it's all online. It's like On24, I think, is the product we use. We invite speakers, some of our technical leaders. We invite real engineers, hiring managers, and it's more of an open forum throughout a certain amount of time that is just designed for that particular critical hire. So if it's software, everybody around that particular topic, and that virtual event is all about software because we're attracting software engineers in China. So it's very targeted.
I have a question then. What is
Yeah.
your attrition rate,
Our
especially in China?
China is one of the highest. Our overall attrition is super low. We can't even pay people to leave. They like it so much, which is actually, it's funny, it's actually a problem because what's happening is all these people are staying, and we kind of, in HR terms, they're clogging the pipeline, right? So then people who are really talented can't move up because we've got all these people who are staying. So we've tried to get people to pay them to leave, early retirement, and we're still not eating our numbers. I think we're overall in the US, we're about 4%. China, Laurent, I think is higher. Holding on to talent in China, in Asia in general, is a lot more difficult.
That's true. Sorry, she was first.
Hi, my name is Smita, and I have two questions for Shannon. So my company is
So sorry.
No, I'm happy with this, I can live with it perfectly well.
So
Specific.
my
Okay.
company is a small fabless semiconductor company, and we are going through what you're going through.
Yeah.
The demand for semiconductor chips is diminishing, and the company is realizing that we have to move to software and Internet of Things and all of that.
Yes.
So you said that you're making that transition. So my first question to you is, how do you get the leadership in the company to make that mindset change? Because things have to be done differently. Mm-hmm. And also, this question also applies to you, Laurent, that how do you make, people in the company, especially people who are in the leadership team and who've been there forever, to kind of make that switch? That's question number one. And question number two is, you mentioned about all those events that you are organizing. Can you share, what's the cost difference between getting hires through them vis-a-vis through traditional channels?
Yeah. Well, I can go first. So that was a lot of questions all in one. So first of all, we don't have a problem getting our leadership on board that we're going into these new areas. The Internet of Things, putting microprocessors into, whether it's point of sale systems, automobile security systems, basically if it computes, it's best with Intel inside. So that's the vision of the company. Our leadership is actually totally on board. Where our challenge is outside of the company, nobody knows we're doing that, right? Everybody thinks Intel is a microprocessor company. We make PCs and servers, end of story. So that's where our leadership, we have them out talking to the press all the time. We're at the wearable conferences. We're out demoing our new, Intel just put a whole bunch of cool technology partnered with BMW. So we're trying to get out there as much as we can to make the world aware that we're actually doing all of these new things. Virtual events, did you ask me what the cost of a virtual event? They're cheap. I'm going to say less than $5,000 to put together a virtual event. That's not hard. I think I might have lost one of the questions in there, but.
In our case, it's a little bit different because we do have a specific business model addressing the question of what we call the up or out. Actually, the flip side of what you explained with the fact that people tend to stay too long or whatever. Mm-hmm. In our case, the attrition rate is very high, but it's natural. We accept it as a part of employability, and we tend to favor it. Because we know that we cannot attract people if we do not offer them very rapid management careers. And if you want to offer rapid management careers, you have to make sure there is no bottleneck in your organization. So that's why we tend to be very careful with this. In terms of the virtual experiences, I would say, let me give you maybe a different point of view on this. I think that the cost of technology is going to rise. The cost of LinkedIn is going to rise. It's already rising, My friends of LinkedIn, can you leave the room, please? 2 seconds. Because they have created something which is brilliant, which is a monopoly. I was talking about an oligopoly when I was referring to my friends Big Four. But LinkedIn is an oligopoly. Do you have another option today? No. They know it. So to me, the question is not what it costs today. It's the cost of tomorrow. Because I'm migrating all my system from internal resource to external resource, ecosystem, and using LinkedIn rather than internal information systems. But I know that the cost of it is going to be higher and higher. So one of the questions I have for myself, it's just like when you hire people in Russia or in China. The cost of it today is low, but the business model of tomorrow is going to be tremendously different because of this. So the only thing I can say is that if today it's $5,000 or euros, I wonder if at one point in time the cost of technology is going to become not really so affordable. And that's part of my concern today, I would say. This is directly targeted at my friend at LinkedIn, so if you can moderate the price. Sorry.
A question, I'm Marvin, a question for both of you on employee referrals.
Yeah.
Does it take more than money to make a good employee referral program? And then a quick second question for Shannon. Can you talk a little bit about the communities of talent you guys have attempted at Intel? A little bit about that.
Employer referral program, and it's one thing to be motivated by money, but you've got to make it really easy. You have to make it really easy for the employee to send in a resume. You have to make it the whole infrastructure and the follow-up, you know, they just can't go into a black hole. So the whole conversion to a hire process has to be flawless, because the worst thing you can do is refer your friend and then they never get a phone call back, right? So it's a whole entire process, and you've got to have a strong back end. Talent communities, I don't think we're very good at that. I just hired a social media community manager and asked him to start doing that. So I honestly can't tell you what we've been doing in that space, because I don't think we're very good at it, to be totally honest.
And in our case, it's quite the contrary, because we were very poor in referral. Actually, not poor, but we misused it. What I mean by this is that we initially wanted to have young people recruiting young people. Actually, the best referral program you can have is to recruit senior hires in our business. You know, it's an industry where everybody knows each other, first of all, and second, we tend to have now more problems to deal with the fact that sometimes you need to equip yourself with senior people. In the case of Intel and Mazars, we do have the same profile, which is we massively recruit people, baby people, that will grow in the company. But the thing is for us that we are now facing a new reality, which is to hire senior people, and that's where the referral programs are much more interesting, and exactly what you mentioned. Money is less the problem than the credibility, and this is what Shannon was telling you actually. Credibility comes first in priority. And this, on the second hand, we are very good at managing communities of talent simply because it is the name of the game. People join us because they know they will be again with their friends, their buddies that they also had at school. So if they wouldn't consider that they belong to an arena of talents, they wouldn't simply come, or they would leave. So we have to do it, but not because for ethical reason. We do it because it's business, you know. Otherwise, they wouldn't come. So we have to maintain this arena of talents, and this is what all the big fours are about, and what we are about too, I guess. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. This question is for Laurent. My name's Diana. My question for you is, you know, to be disruptive, that's really what you need to do to go in with the future for hiring. We need to get out of that stodgy old way of recruiting. Yeah. But I'm in an historically conservative environment. How did you get stakeholder buy-in to be disruptive in your environment?
Thank you for the question. This is a very good question. Let me answer by a concrete example. 2 years ago, we've launched a program because actually we're talking about community of talents. I'm talking about community of leaders, for instance. In my organization, having only had 2 leaders in 70 years and now a 3rd one, we know that a providential man is not going to succeed to a providential man. So what we have decided is to make a community of leaders succeed a providential man, if you prefer. Just like if Andy Grove would retire now, and he would be succeeded by a community of 70 leaders in the world. The question is, how do you train these people? If you look at all the training and educational systems in the world, they are based on one assumption, which is leaders must be developed individually. Look at the cost of an MBA. Can I send 70 top leaders to the top schools for the price they want, for the tuition fee they offer? No, I cannot. Let me be clear. Today, the market in education is not answering my needs. So when a market is not answering your needs, what do? You create an offer. So 2 years ago, we've launched an MBA without the help of a business school, because you know it's the only title that is not protected in the world, by the way. And we think that we should pioneer a new form of education that would be provided by companies and not by schools. And these companies, for this, they need to stick to the upper standards in accreditation and that kind of things. So for this, you don't have to go alone. You have to go with other companies. That's what we've done. So our MBA is open today and is a consortium of 8 companies, and on a rotating basis, by the way, because from one year to the other, companies can change. But you see, this is what I call pioneering initiatives in HR, because you have to do things that do not exist. By the way, that's where my little size is helping me, because it's complicated if you are a large company like yours, and you start saying, we won't go to any kind of business schools now. We couldn't care less. They cannot do that for institutional reason. We can do that because we're small enough. When you're small, you have to be smart, but do not pretend to be big and great and so on. Just be a pioneer and help people come in, and then they will industrialize the thing. So that's the way we work. So we launch initiatives like this one, for instance, And I can tell you, we have many enemies in this, but we also have many allies, which is good. Does it answer your question? Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Also a question for Laurent. You had spoken about the competition should never destroy the industry attractiveness. My question is about what if that industry attractiveness has deteriorated over time?
This is a real risk, by the way, because today I'm not sure that we can maintain, the Big Four can maintain this level of attractiveness in the industry. What I mean by this, 10 years ago, we have started to see people graduating from the best schools and not going to the blue chips. They graduated from Harvard, from Stanford, from Wharton, MIT, whatever, IMD in Lausanne, and they said, no, I don't go to Procter & Gamble. No, I don't go to McKinsey. I do a startup. Wow. You know what happens today? I sit on the boards of many accreditation bodies, by the way, and what we now see is that some of these people, they don't even go to the schools now. They even refuse going to Stanford, MIT, and so on, and they start creating their own business. They start doing something different. Mark my words, I'm not telling that this will come from day to night and black to white. What I mean by this is that we come from a very univocal system, and we go to a dual system, in which tomorrow you will still have these people graduating from the best schools who would like to go the mainstream, and we are the Big Fours are the mainstream. But we also know that the competition is now harder, and we tend to see some weak signals that, exactly as you say, this attractiveness might decrease. Deteriorating, it's always the same. As long as we all play, and I know my friends here are doing the same game as I do, we play in the same game here. We are sure that we can maintain a high level of employability of our people, and this is what counts. But the name that you have to use is optionality. As long as people leaving us are finding good jobs somewhere else, then the quality of our image won't change. Today it is not the case. That might change.
Thank you.
Thank you. I guess it's the last question. Am I right?
My question is for both of you. I come from a municipality, so we're fairly progressive in that a few things, and talent acquisition is one of them. We have a talent acquisition department. That's kind of a big feat for a municipality. What I'm curious of is as you're seeing talent acquisition partner with communications and marketing, and we are truly marketing professionals, how do you see your relationship with HR changing? And I'll kind of give you just quickly my opinion that is not super well informed, so I'd like to start making a more informed opinion on it. I see it really getting pulled out of HR, even in corporate function. Talent acquisition, being a completely separate division or department or agency or whatever is relative in your organization. What are your thoughts on the foreshadowing of that?
Yeah, I'll go. I think that it belongs in corporate marketing. I think there should be very closely connected, but I do my job from HR, and I'm always, hey, what's going on in corporate marketing? What are you doing? What's changing? What's the new messaging? And I don't always have a seat at that table. And I'm in there as much as I can, but Talent is often an afterthought at the corporate level. The corporate level is for our company, is very focused on selling product, and because that's what pays the bills. So they don't always think about the company as an employer. So I actually believe my whole team, my mighty team of 17, including myself, should be in corporate marketing. So I don't know if that'll happen, but.
In my case, and that will be a good finishing word, I would say, on my side, that's why I wanted to be always in the driver's seat. I need to sit on the board. If it's not the case, I know I cannot lead a strategy. And especially we are in a people-intensive industry. Only gray matter matters, if you prefer. And so it is clear that in our case, there is no question in our top executives, and even the chief finance officer is one of the best HR ambassador of my company. So I would say that that's why also I always chose to join that kind of companies, challengers, decentralized, where also the top leaders are very much committed in talent and HR development. Shannon, that was a pleasure to be here with you.
Same with you, Laurent.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.